Agriculture 4.0. We really appreciate the time that you're here to have a very constructive and educational opportunity to discuss the challenges that we face in our continent and our region, sub-region regarding agriculture. I just want to confirm, can all of you hear me? Fabian, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we are going to take the next 1 hour basically talking about agriculture and 4.0. And we have very highly esteemed and distinguished panelists who, like Tobias Alando, I saw on TV the other day talking about tariffs and the impact that tariffs has on the African continent. So very highly esteemed panelists to share with us their perspectives on Agriculture 4.0. So we'll start with opening remarks, and then we'll get into presentation by the panelists. That will go on until 4 o'clock, and we'll have 25 minutes of conversation between panelists and others, and also amongst from the chat, if there are any questions from participants. And we'll close at 4:30. So that's how the agenda is going to run. It's very interactive. And so if at any moment the panelists, you want to also say something, please feel free to discuss with us if there are any points. But I think the first I would like us to, initially I thought I should introduce each panelist, but I think it's best if we just give you 1 minute to introduce yourself, then you can link it directly to the topic that we are discussing. So Tobias Alando, may I start with you? Could you just spend 1 minute introducing yourself, please?
Thank you very much. My name is Tobias Alando. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. And it's a great honor and privilege to be here today to have this conversation around agriculture 4.0. Industry, where I come from, I mean, I've been talking a lot about the manufacturing sector, and the manufacturing sector, the agriculture sector in Kenya, we are the drivers of the economy, so there is an important linkage between the manufacturing sector and the agriculture sector, and that is why this conversation is crucial for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tobias. Excellent. Victor, over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Victor Muthumbe. I am a portfolio specialist in the Great Rift Valley Restoration Finance, working with the World Resources Institute. WRI is an international organization that works on research. It's a research organization that works that leverages its data, expertise, and global reach to influence policy and also catalyze change across systems like food, land, and water. We work towards improving people, nature, and climate. In my line of work, I mostly am involved in terms of capacity building and also deployment of finance to restoration entrepreneurs. But over and above, I've also been able to work with agriculture enterprises, and restoration and agriculture do not work side by side, but work together, because the same people who are restoring our land are also the same people who are also doing agricultural practices. Just then, how do we combine the two to be able to make sure that they're working in tandem and they're working for each other rather than against each other? Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Victor. Olusola? Olusola, are you there? I just saw him. Fabian, did we lose him?
Yes, it seems like we lost him. I'll alert you when he comes back on.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have Wairimu? No, Waidera? I guess we start, and please let me and the joint on them. But once again, thank you. I think that I've been reflecting on this. Me, I'm a medical doctor. At the same time, I'm a farmer, and I know what challenges I've faced over the past many years: farming, farming crop, farming poultry, and serious challenges. So I'm quite glad that this group is here that have been doing capacity building, doing manufacturing, doing exports, to have a conversation around this very important topic. And as I've been reflecting and also looking at my life over the years, starting from a village in Homa Bay County here in Kenya, and looking at how we did agriculture then when I was a kid and how I'm doing it now, is a major transformation over time. But then we look at how agriculture has changed from the first agrarian revolution, that was the shift from manual labor to mechanized and then industrial, and the digital transformation is quite something that has happened. And if you look at the first one, which was mostly hunters, gather hunters, and then get into settled farmers, and then that led to civilization. And then the second one that started introducing crops and selective breeding, using plows, drills, early fertilizers are being used. And that increased productivity that then led to the industrial revolution. And then the third one, which now during the industrial revolution, we had industrial farming techniques using irrigation systems. There was significant increased food production, but it raised a lot of environmental concerns during that time. And then now we are into the fourth revolution, agriculture 4.0. And just so that we are all on the same page, is that what does it really mean when we talk about agriculture 4.0, which is basically the use of innovation, the use of technology to collect, analyze, and provide actionable insights to farmers. These days, I recall one of the years I didn't farm because there was a serious prediction of El Nino where I do my farming. And I said, this year I will not farm. And we were right, it rained heavily. And those who farmed, actually, their crops were completely destroyed. So the precision farming that is required for agriculture 4.0 is to have very accurate data that's being analyzed, collected, and transmitted through advanced tools and technology. The key elements combines artificial intelligence, using Internet of Things, using big data, using automation and robotics. I recall last year during the planting season, I had almost 60 people planting for me. But when in Israel, they use robots to do that. So mine is very manual with a lot of people with a very high cost. When in other areas, they use automation, they use drones, satellite to be able to spray, to do lots of things, and to predict what pests are going to be there for the year. So if I look at it, I've just come back from Kenya. I've been living in Asia for many years, and I see the scramble for food. The population is growing worldwide. The land is limited. There's increased requirement for food. During the food crisis 4 years ago, there was many countries in the Middle East were coming to Africa looking for land to be able to grow crops to feed their own population back home. So by year 2050, there'll be significant demand for food. We need 70% more food than we produce now. So agriculture is going to grow very rapidly over the next many years. We have scarcity of natural resources. Just mentioned land as one of them. Climate change, of course, is making it very difficult. for us, and then still 40% of the food that we produce is wasted. So we need to come up with a system in place to be able to ensure that the world population is fed, food is not wasted, and farmers become richer and economically secure. So there's food security and economic security amongst farmers. So why does this really matter? Is that using technology, we can actually reduce farming inputs by about 30%, productivity gains of about 40%, and minimize wastage, and also enhance climate change, and also economically for our farmers. Many young people don't want to do farming anymore. They say that's for old people, elderly people, and not for young people. Young people rush into the cities where they actually end up living worse life than if they were doing farming in the farms and making a significant amount of money. So I'll stop there and ask Tobias to also share your perspectives on what are your thoughts on where we are in agriculture, where we are going. You as a manufacturer, what do you see as what's your insight, and what we as Kenya or our region should do to be able to ensure that we are part of this significant transformation? Over to you, Tobias.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick. Like I mentioned when I started in terms of introduction, manufacturing and agriculture are almost intertwined, sort of aligned, in the sense that the revolution or evolution that agriculture has gone through is the same evolution and revolution the manufacturing sector has gone through. Technology is changing. It's changing in the world, and therefore how we manufacture and how we produce agriculture-related products also should be in line with the technological changes. We see what Israel and other countries are doing in terms of technology in agriculture, and we are also need to be at par with technology. From the manufacturing perspective, I think the challenge has been in terms of we produce to eat. Many farmers produce to eat, so the element of processing has not been really taken into account. And that's why the manufacturing sector is coming on board and providing the linkage. From where I see it in terms of our strategic focus, we have one pillar which we call agriculture for industry. Basically looks towards linkage between the farmer and the manufacturer to support the processing, but above all to guarantee offtake of the items that are produced, so that we can produce goods and products for our population. We've seen a lot of wastage happening in this country. I'll take just one typical value chain, tomato, where we see a case where we are importing tomato paste as a country or as a continent, yet we can produce, get the tomatoes from farmers, link them to industry, and produce tomato paste. This will guarantee will be a guarantee to the farmer that every tomato they plant will have a market. Even if they overproduce, they will be guaranteed as a market. We don't want scenarios where tomato is produced and it rots in the marketplace. And that is why industry is coming on board and saying, how can we have an appropriate linkage between the farmer and the manufacturer, so that we do have a guaranteed offtake and also guaranteed ecosystem. The other thing in terms of the way a lot of farming that has been done, like Dr. Patrick, you have said, most farming is done in small scale. But when we are providing linkages between the farmer and the industry, we require large scale and mass scale production to support the processing of this product. And therefore it's changing the perception that we've had And even if you don't have a big farmland, what we are working towards is to promote a coordinated approach of taking produce from different smallhold farmers. They regroup, and then their items are bought for processing. So there's opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity, and as Africa and as Kenya, or as Africa as a continent, we need also to scale in terms of farming and also what we produce. So the manufacturing sector is well cognizant of the opportunities that we have in terms of agriculture, and we want to align and to be linked with the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tobias. I think that yeah, those are very good insights as to the challenges that you face. And if I were to use myself as an example again, actually plant tomatoes, and my neighbors also plant tomatoes. So we plant tomatoes at the same time. So during the harvesting season, there's so much tomatoes that the price drops by almost 60%. And then there's a lot of wastage on some of the tomatoes. And then when the tomato season is over, the price goes up. And so I think manufacturing would help us so that we ensure that we maintain the price at a certain level, and therefore the farmers are able to get good income. So thank you so much for those insights. I'll come back later with questions regarding how to do this coordinated effort, because that's one of the biggest challenges that I personally faced, and I see a lot of our neighbors face that also at the same time. So I'll ask Victor to also share some insights on from where you sit, how do you see agriculture 4.0?
Thank you so much, Dr. Patrick. And I share the same sentiments as you and Tobias. In terms of agriculture is expanding. You know, when I was a young man, when I was a small boy, maybe that's the best time to use that. Our parents just used to grow, you know, food for subsistence only. They never used to use any kind of technology. There was no mechanization. You know, policies maybe at that time were not very well developed. And so basically we knew, like for instance, to grow maize, the maize is for, you know, unga ugali and also for githeri, for instance. But now with agriculture, you know, progressing, especially with agriculture 4.0, then we see issues such as technology, because again, you know, in a world where technology is growing rapidly, you know, we have AI, we have, you know, mechanization coming up, yeah, we have different, you know, IoT devices, etc. And so the kind of agriculture now, especially if you want to do it in a sustainable yet profitable manner, then I feel that agriculture 4.0, whereby we are incorporating technology, where we are making sure that policy favors agriculture, and also making sure that we are able then to pump in money into the agriculture sector, so that then they can be able to as well expand in terms of financing. So how I'm saying it is that agriculture 4.0 is very critical to be able to improve agriculture, such that we are not only doing it in a subsistence way, but also doing it in a profitable way. And I believe that is why, Doctor, despite you being a medical doctor, you're also into agriculture, because I know you're also trying to make some more money out of it. Otherwise, then there'll be no need for you to do it. And so I think agriculture 4.0 is a good basis for us to be able to begin at, and just to be able to accept that, or to recognize the fact that some of these things are already in place. We've seen, you know, especially from the private sector and from DFIs and other, you know, organizations trying to fill these spaces. But then how can we be able to come together as well and be able to make sure that we're doing these efforts in a cohesive way, rather than doing it, you know, in silos, to make sure that we're able to achieve, you know, the SDGs and the vision that we have moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor, for those insights. You know, in the medical profession, although we have people getting sick every day, but you, as a person, you don't get sick every day. You know, you're sick, you have a cold, and perhaps you're healthy for many years to come or something. In the clothing industry, when you buy clothes, perhaps you buy clothes once every quarter or once every every year, depending on how you buy your clothes. In the agricultural sector, in the food part, we eat 3 times a day. So you are a customer 3 times a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner. Sometimes you have even a mid-morning snack, or you have a 4 p.m. snack, or a midnight snack, depending on the culture. So you have serious demand for agricultural products, because literally we can't live without that. But that's where farmers are not making money. In many areas, farmers are still not making money. So you have something that people demand 3 times a day or 5 times a day, but people are not making money. That's a serious mismatch. That's where people actually should be making most money. So this is a very good conversation we are having on how to basically use technology and others to ensure that farmers get. The bottom line is farmers are making money. I'll then now ask Olusola. I don't know whether now you can hear me and also share some of your perspective. Olusola, please.
Good afternoon, Dr. Patrick. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Oh, okay, great. Apologies. I had some little bits of network issues at the earlier part of the call. So I'm not sure whether it's the same question. Just to be sure, the question you raised first so that I can respond appropriately.
So the question was from where you said, what's your perspective on agriculture 4.0 as an opening question?
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so just to say that a lot is going on in our world at the moment with technology, and as a sector, agriculture cannot afford to be left behind, and more specifically, agriculture within the African context. Because when we talk about agriculture 4.0 and the usage of technology in improving productivity, it's really not so new in the advanced countries. They've been trying to do that for some while now, whether you talk about Internet of Things, going digital with agriculture, using digital infrastructure, even when it comes to cultivation, tools on the farm, and how those could communicate across board all the different platforms they are using. That's already going on. But as we know, within the African context, technology and improvements in agricultural practice is still something we are working on. We are moving towards it, but we are not there yet. And the question for us is, how do we leverage technology within our context to maximize the benefits and the opportunities it has to help increase productivity within Africa? At the moment, we're still struggling with feeding ourselves. A lot of importation, be it for grains like wheat or rice, still happening. Farmers are not receiving as much yield like their counterparts in the western parts of the world. For grain products, we're talking about almost less than quarter of what a fellow farmer in Europe would probably realize due to the way they apply their agronomic practices or inputs, as the case may be. So digital technology adoption could actually help to bridge the gap between what we are currently seeing now and keep us closer to what the rest of the world is doing. So take, for example, when it comes to even advisory services, knowledge of the right inputs and the right way to cultivate, we can easily scale that now with the tools at our disposal. Talking, for example, about digital advisory, thankfully, a lot of farmers are now armed with mobile phones, whether the simple one, whether the smartphones, even with the simple phones now, there are already a lot of structures. We have some programs in some of our countries, specifically in Nigeria, that makes use of high VR. So farmers could call in a free line and they are giving advisory services. But for us, part of the question is, how do these technologies scale? How do they become ubiquitous? How do farmers everywhere know about it and be able to use it to improve their production? So a lot of opportunities, but I know we still dive into specifics. But yes, agriculture 4.0 is here. Technology is driving a lot of change at the corporate level and also at the farm level. Youths are excited about digital opportunities, and it also provides an opportunity for Africa to leverage on this huge population. We have the largest youth population across the world, and they are tech savvy. So how do we use even that opportunity to bring in the youth and help to fan this interest into fame? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olusola, for those insights. I would like to go back to Tobias. Tobias, you mentioned earlier that to be able to manufacture, we need to have large-scale farming, and since most of our people do not have large-scale, big tracts of land, they need to have a coordinated approach to make this happen. I just wanted to hear from you. Do you have policies in place, strategies in place, implementation arrangements in place to make this happen? And if not, what are some of the barriers that you see facing from the manufacturing side?
So from the manufacturing side, I've seen direct intervention where a manufacturer has registered, created or registered a database of farmers in specific produce or products that he's interested in. And these farmers are supported from the whole cycle of farming, from preparing the land, seedlings, weeding, having the right herbicides in terms of supporting the growth of those products, and then harvesting, guaranteed offtake. What I didn't mention is also there is a guaranteed price. Because most of the challenge of the farmers is, yes, someone will guarantee offtake, but at what price? So the farmers that have been supported or have had a successful linkage with the industries are farmers who have registered under an agreed database, and they are supported throughout that cycle. And I've seen that system work well. What we need to do is to ensure that through the agriculture extension officers, we have access to more farmers who can be brought together and registered in a database where they are guaranteed offtake and contracts are signed. Because when it comes to processing, you must remember there is competition. For example, if we are processing tomato paste, there are 4 companies. There are 4 companies or 4 manufacturing companies processing tomato paste. There are a lot of farmers. So in most cases, farmers are tied to specific industries in terms of contract, just to avoid this issue of I have produced, someone supported me from plowing my land to getting the right seeds. Then at the time of harvesting, I'm selling my tomatoes to a competitor. So we've seen that happening. So to avoid that, we have had a conversation with farmers in terms of tied up contracts. And these contracts are not just to the favor of the manufacturer, but also to the favor of the farmer. So maybe to get more people on board is to have farmers registered or form groups or circles for that matter, so that they can have the negotiating muscles with the off-taker who are the industries. But in most sectors, this has been successful. What we just need to do is to scale it and have more farmers get involved. Back to you, Dr.
How about the financing of this? Because if, say, for example, I want to aggregate farmers to be able to produce something, say palm produce, for example, what's the best way to get financing to be able to do that?
So already, for example, Equity Bank, and we had a conversation with them just a week ago. Equity Bank has a section on agro-processing. When a farmer has produced a contract with the off-taker, then it is easier for that farmer to get funding or bank loan or finances from the bank to enable them produce their products and sell. But it also happens in a different way in the context that as a manufacturer, I'll go to the bank and produce a list of farmers who also will be required to bank with that specific bank and say, I am guaranteeing offtake of their products. So based on that, the bank will provide finances, and payment also will be guaranteed to these farmers through the bank, so that once they give me the produce to process, then the bank will be able to pay them and probably cut the cost of inputs that the bank was able to support them. So there is a financial angle that is already in the cycle. It's just for us to identify which bank that we want to work with in this process for us to scale.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Tobias. Victor, Tobias raised the issue of capacity building, and you mentioned in your insights about capacity to be able to, if we come together, how do you build capacity? How do you ensure that the farmers can actually, if I'm an aggregator, or if I want to get into manufacturing, or if I'm already a manufacturer, can you share with us some aspects of capacity building that you're doing and what's been your experience so far? Victor?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ari. And thank you for touching on capacity, because when you talk about capacity, we're talking about access to information, basically. And when you look at agriculture, the way it was happening and the way it is happening now is because of, now we are using a lot of data and a lot of knowledge that has been accumulating over the years to be able then to inform the smallholder farmers and also the manufacturers on how to move on. For instance, when you look at things like market access and linkages, it's one capacity gap that has been there, and some of the ways that we can be able to solve this is through technology. And talk about technology, using e-commerce platforms, using digital marketplaces that can be able to connect farmers directly to buyers and processors. In terms of another capacity gap that is there that I see and that can be solved by policy, is still through market access and linkages, is in terms of infrastructure. We talk about roads, we talk about storage. So that's a policy issue, and then you can also have a policy on removal or regulation of brokers to reduce exploitation of capital, or to reduce exploitation of farmers. And I know, for instance, I had the president speak about reforms in the coffee sector, and don't shoot the messenger, but he talked about regulating the brokers in the coffee sector. And I know through the capital markets, coffee exchange regulations, then the coffee sector has been able to get rid of the brokers in the sector, or regulate the brokers for those who meet the standards. Another capacity gap that I see a capacity gap on access to information and knowledge. And here I see farmers lacking things such as timely and accurate information on market prices, on weather, on pests and diseases, and even investment opportunities. And then how does agriculture 4.0 in terms of technology come through? You see, we have seen mobile applications, we have seen AI powered platforms, we have seen SMS alerts that are able to deliver real-time information to the farmers, such that they are not reacting to what is happening, but they're actually prepared to be able to move as per what the information they've been able to receive. And I know, for instance, I'm going to be an example of one application. There's an application called Plantix. I think it's able to give you information on what pests and what diseases are affecting a plant just by taking a picture of the plant in itself. In terms of policy, we've seen things such as robust agriculture extension services. And these, of course, the government needs to be able to make sure that they've been able to implement these. I know agricultural extension services have been there, but not very robust. So then how can we be able now to make them more robust? In terms of then smart investments, then we have to be able to make sure that we have capacity building programs that offer trainings on best agricultural practices, on digital literacy, on market strategy, on investment readiness, etc., to be able to make sure that they're able to equip them smallholder farmers with all this information. The other capacity gap that I say is in terms of access to finance. And when you're talking about access to finance, because this is the biggest capacity gap that if you ask any other smallholder farmer, they're going to talk about. And you have to ask ourselves this, you have to talk about A2F, which is access to finance in three ways. Number one, is there enough financing? And I want to believe we have at least enough financing for those farmers who are ready to be able to absorb the financing. The second question is tied to my first question is, are farmers able to access financing? I'm going to say no, most of them are not, because we're talking about smallholder farmers. Maybe the large scale, yes, they are there. Because one, they're not investor ready. Number two, they don't have collateral, especially if they are looking for financing from commercial banks. Number two, they have a lot of financial literacy gaps. And also they are very stringent, requirements, especially in due diligence by these financial institutions. The other question we need to ask ourselves is, are the financial products suitable for the smallholder farmers? I want to say mostly they are not, because number one, they tend to classify, farming as a risky venture. So you find that the interest rates are very high and the ticket sizes maybe are too small, they're too small that the farmers are asking for, and the banks want to offer, bigger or larger ticket sizes. But over and above, the question is, how do we de-risk farmers so that investors and traditional financing institutions then can be able to view them as viable investees? In terms of technology, I would say, again, going back to the capacity building programs and also online paced learning systems. I know, for instance, WRI, we have an online paced learning system. We are calling it the RBB, the Restoration Business Basics. It's just a self-paced learning system whereby people are able to gain knowledge on business basics and also technical knowledge for restoration. But also in terms of policy, looking at things such as credit guarantees and risk sharing facilities to be able to incentivize banks and MFIs to then cascade the same to the farmers. But also in terms of smart investment, looking at vehicles such as blended financing, private-public partnerships, to crowdfunding for agriculture, and also off-take market contracts such that like the ones Tobias has talked about. I know Regeneration is our partner, and through their MRTA facility, they're also doing this. They're also able to do this. And last but not least, in terms of inadequate inputs as well. I know farmers normally are facing challenges in terms of inadequate inputs and tools. They lack quality seeds, they lack quality fertilizers, and also irrigation kits. We all know the scandal about the fake fertilizer. We all know the problem around getting quality seeds and certified seeds I'm talking about. And how can tech assist us? Through precision agriculture, mechanization in agriculture, through productive use of energy, such as solar powered irrigation kits. I think technology can be able to solve some of these in that way. In terms of policies, I'll look at things such as input subsidies to be able to help farmers be able to access this easily, and also quality control measures to make sure that we do not have, a case whereby we get like fake fertilizer or something of that sort. But also in terms of smart investments, we want to look at things such as research and development on appropriate technology, appropriate mechanization to be able then to push the agenda of precision agriculture and smart farming. But also having things like small loans on inputs to be able to provide to farmers. I know there's one enterprise that is part of our portfolio because WRI we also deploy finance, and then what they do is that they've been able to bring different smallholder farmers and aggregate them together in like cooperatives, and then they're able then to give them contracts whereby once now they take their inputs, their harvest, then they are able then to subtract the loans, the inputs through the loans that they gave them, and give whatever is remaining to them. And I think that ties to what Tobias said, that in case when the smallholder farmers are going to the manufacturers, then they need to go as a large scale. And I think here is where then cooperatives and aggregation then comes in together. And back to Dr. that is maybe a small or a medium view of some of the capacity gaps. Of course, there are many, but I think those are the major ones that I can be able to say.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that. I think you've hit the nail on the head. If I look at potatoes, for example, the two counties that produce the most potatoes, Irish potatoes in Kenya are Nyandarua and Nakuru. And for sweet potatoes, Migori County is at the top. But what I see on the ground is that brokers make more money than farmers. And I'm just wondering, how do we educate our farmers to know about the market price, and how do we know about the various existing marketplace? This back to you, Victor.
Sorry, Doctor. Can you come back with your question?
Yes, I was saying that if I look at some of the products, for example, Irish potatoes produced from Nakuru or Nyandarua, or sweet potatoes produced from Migori, brokers make more money than the farmers. But you talk about knowing the price and having knowing the marketplace to be able to sell. How do farmers get that information, and what's the best way to ensure that they make more money than the brokers because they're the farmers?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think these are multiple strong question or answer. Number one is that they need to be able then to leverage on, as I say, technology. There are mobile applications whereby you can be able to sell directly to the buyers and the processors. So that way, then they are able to cut the middleman. And of course, then they need a lot of capacity building to be able now to get them to be able to know how to use those digital literacy, mobile platforms, and also e-commerce platforms. But also more than that is that we minus that, what can they do is that their biggest leverage point is coming together as a group, such that Victor here, me with my with my 3 bags of potatoes, Daktari with your 10 bags of potatoes, Tobias with his 15 bags of potatoes, we come together. Then there's power in coming together, and there's power in, we call it, economies of scale, such that then we are able to invite a bigger, buyer, for instance, a manufacturer, and say, you know what, you are looking for 5 tons of, for instance, potatoes. If I am alone, I can only produce maybe 500 kgs, but together then you are able to cut the broker, cut the middleman, and invite the manufacturer directly. But also more than that is also being able to leverage on BDS providers, business development service providers, because then the BDS then, and even not even the BDS, but even other organizations who have this program, who have these smallholder empowerment programs, because mostly you find they always have the aspect on market linkages. So then how can we be able to leverage on these programs, on the BDS providers, to be able to link us to the markets? Because then now you're able to get exposed to the outside market and you're able to gather all this kind of information. So those are some of the intervention measures that you can be able to put there. Of course, there's some intrinsic ones, but I think major ones, I would tend to say those ones as the major ones. Thank you. Back to you, Dr.
Thank you so much, Victor, for those insights. I'm just now going to call upon Olusola also to share. Agra, you work across the continent. There are many examples of successes across the continent that is not shared. We are struggling, failing, and perhaps in Kenya, where Nigeria has succeeded, or where Rwanda has succeeded. So you as a Pan-African entity, what is the best way to ensure that we actually build the capacity of our people, to ensure that our people are successful in whatever they do, to ensure that there's cross-border sharing of knowledge, and that we have something that many parts of the world don't have. We have the land, right? And the land is what we require to produce the food, and we are not utilizing this resource. So what is it? What do you see as the priorities for our continent to our food security?
No, thank you very much, Dr. Patrick. And maybe I will probably start from where you stopped mentioning the issue of the land. So yeah, truly Africa is blessed with a very large land mass, but it could also be our weak points if not careful, because even over the last few years, a lot of the productivity we've seen so far.
We're losing you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me, Dr. Patrick. Can other people hear me?
Okay.
So I was talking about the land issue that you raised, talking about the fact that Africa has a large land mass, but I was also mentioning that fact could also be a weak point for us, because what we've seen in the last few years is that a lot of the productivity that has been recorded has actually been due to increased land usage. rather than more productivity in a given expanse of land. So there is what we call intensification as different from expansion, because as we all also rightly know, land is a finite resources or is a finite resource. So when we think about intensification, what we've seen is that yield per hectare in other parts of the world is quite better than what we've seen in Africa. So even when we think about overall production, we can say, oh, production has increased, but the land area we're using to cultivate has also increased. So we need to actually increase yield per hectare, and that could also only come by, you know, practices that enable such. So take, for example, a lot of current emphasis. Last year, there was the African Soil Health Summit that's held in Kenya. And the emphasis had been around integrated soil fertility management for the African context. Of course, a lot of talk currently about regenerative agriculture, ecology, but the first question is, what is appropriate within the African context? In time past, we've seen a wholesale exportation of technology, of recommendation of practices, but they have not necessarily worked within the African context because of the uniqueness, the climatic conditions, the weather condition, our farmers, the practices. So in Hagra, for example, part of the questions we ask is, what represents our context and what should we be focusing on? So emphasis currently on things like soil testing, just to even be sure of what type of fertilizer or input should be applied on the soil. So not even just generic usage of, say, NPK. What should we be doing? What should the practice look like that will give us the best in terms of the yield on our land? So around that, a lot of work on training the appropriate personnel. One big issue we are currently having in Africa, we will say, is the level of extension officers that are delivering services to farmers. So currently that ranges between one extension worker to about 3,000 farmers, up to about 10,000 farmers in some context. And we're asking the question, how do we bridge that gap? The recommended ratio by FAO is between 1 to 400 or 1 to 500. And so two things that we are saying, technology provides an opportunity with, number one, the opportunity to bring in more young people. So when you also look at that population, is an aging population. A lot of the people in the public service are very old, well above 50 years in age. So how could we bring in more young people? One of the approaches is, integrating technology. Young people love digital approaches, so that could attract them. Secondly, since it might still be very difficult to reach a lot of farmers at scale, how can we leverage technology to reach a lot of them faster and get the right information, the right services through to them? And digital devices, I think my colleague Victor had spoken about, delivering services through digital platforms, through extension devices. Weather services are now, being run on digital devices. Advisory services, we have companies who are already working on that. We have Pula advisors, also coming up with products around insurance for farmers, some related to weather risk, as the case may be. We have organizations that are using digital platforms to help farmers to access inputs, some either by a layaway mechanism. There's My Agro. Some of us might have heard about them before, very popular in West Africa. They are in Mali, they are in Senegal, and what they basically do is that farmers at times find it difficult to access bulk inputs because of the cost. So there is a whole layaway system through which farmers are able to put small bits and pieces of resources together over the whole period of the year, and through that access finance at the end of the day. We're also seeing a situation whereby extension agents are becoming like middlemen between technology and farmers. So part of the challenges we've had is, okay, in the rural communities, the level of mobile adoption, mobile technology integration is very low. So what could at least for now bridge the gap? So extension agents are beginning to devise means to bridge that. We've seen in our own context in Agra a situation where we have these people we call community-based advisors, and they've been able to go around, capture data from farmer, even have some of those farmers now on their WhatsApp platform. As simple as WhatsApp is, People are using WhatsApp to deliver extension services now. So you know the farmer that needs what. Now, a farmer has a question, is not waiting for the cycle of 1 or 2 months before you come over to reach out to you to say, well, I'm seeing this infestation on my field. What do I need to do? And you are able to deliver that service to them immediately. So all these are going on across the continent. Like I said earlier on, the question is, how do we scale it up rapidly to even deliver more impact and value for farmers? Thank you.
Lusola, thank you so much. I have a follow-up question for you. And taking lessons from the health side and from the education side. Are you connected, Lusola? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Patrick.
Yes. So in the health sector, the digital revolution has led to a lot of transformation. There's still a lot of areas that are not covered, but the challenges that we face in the health sector is that there are no digital health experts. So the sector is transforming, is moving rapidly. It's becoming technology driven, but digital health experts are missing, or are few, and there are very few institutions that are producing digital health experts. So you have a revolution or a transformation. You have fewer people, and you don't have institutions producing. That's one big challenge. The second one is financing becomes bigger as people grow older, but there are very few health economists to be able to deal with some of these emerging issues. So in the agricultural sector, we have sufficient number of agricultural digital experts, agricultural economists. In terms of capacity, as you scan the continent, what do you see as those big gaps that we may try to do all these things, but we actually don't have the people to drive the transformation? The same thing applies to the financial sector. At a meeting that was organized by all the mobile monies from around the world that I attended, they said the top priority was limited capacity, and they're always poaching from each other. Over to you.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Patrick. And I can confidently say that this is not restricted to the health sector. This is a challenge that the whole continent is grappling with in terms of digital upskilling. Recently in my organization, we're having a webinar or a training even around artificial intelligence and its application within the food system. And we could see that even within the room, not so many people have adopted a lot of the new emerging technologies. So one of the key challenges for every sector, including my sector, the agricultural sector, is actually that upskilling. Maybe why the work that's an organization like Genesis is doing becomes very, very critical. And if Africa is not to be left behind, that becomes something that we really, really need to focus on. I'm happy that work is already ongoing around that. So you probably might be aware, the African Union, they have already released an artificial intelligence or digital strategy, which captures all the different components of work that needs to be done when it comes to ensuring that Africa leverages artificial intelligence as a means of also bridging the gap between us and the rest of the world. And part of what is captured under that is actually upskilling of personnel. So directly within our own sector, we need to upskill the extension workers. We need to have in private institutions or organizations that are very savvy with this tool and that are willing and ready to deploy. Some are already doing it, but a lot more needs to be done. I've had engagements with, maybe some of us know them already, Hello Tractor is trying to do something within the space. They will call themselves the Uber of tractors. So just like you will order for a taxi on your phone through an app, farmers at the rural community could pick their phone and they could request the delivery of, tractor services. And there are agents that go there, they map the field, and that makes, tractor services available to more farmers. You can cultivate more land and increase your productivity. But is that readily available everywhere? Are the operational challenges resolved? It's still a lot of work to be done. So yeah, upskilling is a big issue to address within the African context if we are to maximize the opportunities that digital technology provides.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Olusola. I'll come back to Tobias. Tobias, your entity, you do excellent work. I always see what you guys do, and you're always educating people, talking to Kenyans through social media and also through the press. But you cover all sectors. Because you look across all sectors. Now, when you look specifically at the agricultural sector, what do you see as the top things that we should focus on as a country and also as a region in terms of manufacturing?
So thank you very much, and thanks for the compliment in terms of what we do in the manufacturing space. So when I look at the agriculture, what top things that we really need to do, one is create awareness, the importance of agriculture, because there's a challenge in terms of what we call generational gap, where the younger people are not interested in agriculture per se, and therefore we need to create that awareness and interest and make agriculture a thing for the youth also, so that the young people can also get interested in farming and in agriculture per se. The other thing that we need to do is identify and get more technology in the agriculture space, because there's technology all over the world in the agriculture space. We need to have our farmers not to continue producing the traditional way, but use technology to support the growth of the agriculture sector. The third thing that we need to do is around policies, because agriculture has been mainly focused on production for consumption. We've never thought of sustenance in terms of even export, excess production for export. We still import maize and sugar in our country because we've allowed businessmen and particularly politicians to enter into that space of maize business. So it's lucrative and sugar business. They say in the world you only have how many barons? There is 4 or 5 barons. There is a drug baron that we know, but there is also maize baron and sugar baron. That shows you we've allowed traders to participate in this space, and farmers not getting value, because if they will be guaranteed that, okay, we have a shortfall of maize, and the shortfall we are having is not because of weather, but it's because farmers have not been given opportunity to farm and produce, and the right inputs also provided to them at subsidized rates. So governments have to be intentional, and even the private sector and everyone in the agriculture space have to be intentional to see how we can sustain mass production of agriculture products. The last thing that I think we need to do is demystify this concept of smallholder farming. As much as, yes, it is done because we do not have enough farmlands of our own, but we have enough land in Africa. In fact, 72 or 80% of the land in Africa is arable. But how much are we using? We're using less than that. So we have to be intentional. I'll give you an example. For example, Ethiopia became intentional and started wheat production. And now they are very sustainable as a country. They can export that wheat to other countries in Africa. Africa alone can feed the whole world if we all become intentional, our governments become intentional and say we want to concentrate in terms of food security, not only for Africa, but also to the world. Over to you, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tobias. Those are very good insights. Yeah, and just some lessons from Asia. Vietnamese, the population of Vietnam is 108 million people. They live across 63 provinces. They love coffee. And 20 years ago, Vietnam imported coffee. But with specific policies and reforms and support to farmers, they in 20 years they've achieved self-sufficiency in coffee, and they become the third largest producer of coffee worldwide. So it just underscores, Tobias, what you're saying, how with the right policies in place, with specific governmental intervention and market intervention, Africa can be a major producer of food, net producer of food that we are able to export. But coming back to what you're saying about young people, this is something that I've heard across the world, that young people do not like farming. And you highlighted the use of bringing technology into agriculture. What are the other strategies that we can use to bring young people into farming? Tobias?
Of course, looking at the young people, they are tech savvy, and I'll give you the example of Africa. Looking at our population, Africa is the only continent that is projected to grow even double the number in terms of the youth and the population. And looking at even technology savvy, we are also much way improving. So in our education system, there is need to create an interest in terms of science. You know, even in our families, when you're growing up, you're only told that you either be a doctor or a lawyer. Farmers were looked at as very poor people. So farming is no longer an interest, has been something that is not of interest to the young people, because when they are growing up, it is mentioned like it's a poor people's job, or a job that you do because you don't have any other job. We need to demystify that. So in our education system, these conversations need to be changed. Even at the university level, this conversation about farming, particularly touching on the youth, needs to be changed. Farming has a lot of money. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine that has not been tapped into, and many of our young people are not employed because they have not identified this gold mine of farming. So a lot of work needs to go into capacity building and awareness for our young people. From the industry perspective, from the manufacturing perspective, we are also pushing this conversation about the young people to get interested in the manufacturing sector, so that continuity may be seen in our continent and in our country. So it's both ways, in agriculture and also in manufacturing. We need to get the youth involved, but the only thing we need to do is capacity building and awareness.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, growing up, I never had encouragement to study agriculture, and we are doing, as Regenesis, we're doing a lot of mentoring in schools, in high schools, and we talk about career options and career guidance to students. And we normally start by asking them, what do they want to be when they finish their studies? And my colleagues are here. We can attest to, I don't recall in any of the over 200 schools that we've gone to, we've had anybody talk about agriculture. They talk about all other things except agriculture. So yes, I think this issue of awareness is a critical issue. I'll come back to Victor. Victor, what are your thoughts on some of the things that we're discussing?
Thank you so much. And I want to chime in especially on the issue about youth and agriculture. And I will start by mentioning that over time, the people who are going to get us to a food secure nation are the young people. Why am I saying this? This is because I was just looking at the 2019 census report, and I was looking at the age brackets, and the age between 0 to 14 years was 40.87%, which then compounds your point, Daktari, on how can we get the students in schools, both primary and secondary. I think the new education system, they're calling them differently, but how do we get them to get engaged in agriculture, and not only see agriculture as for the failures, but see agriculture as a career, as something that can actually make you money. Yeah. Then I saw, then from 15 to 24 years was 18.83%, and 25 to 54 years was 33.54%. So what that tells you is that the young generation is the generation that's going to get us to a food secure nation, because the age between 65, 55 and above is only around 6%, and that is the generation that was majorly into agriculture. So why don't the youth get into agriculture? Is because of that notion since from our forefathers and from our fathers, that agriculture is for the for the poor, for those who didn't make it in school, for the dirty people. But now, due to the current economic crisis, and I want to underline that, because now we have a growing knowledgeable young population who do not have jobs and don't have a place to go to. So they are now resulting to go to agriculture, not because they wanted to, but because they are being forced to go that way. But the reason why I'm saying that is the generation to get us out of it, and then I'm talking about millennials, I'm talking about Gen Z, is because number one, as Tobias said, they are very tech savvy. Number two, they are very learned. And number three, they are outgoing. So when you talk about tech savvy, of course, they're able to tap into some of these, platforms, how to use them, they know how to look for opportunities. When I talk about outgoing, is that they're able to go out there and try and look for financing. I know it's hard, but they're actually trying to do it. I was just thinking how, because I've been there in many competitions, these youth competitions, agriculture youth competitions, and I've been a judge in a couple of them, and you find out that most of the people who come to pitch, meaning that they have very nice pitch decks, they have very nice business models, they have very nice financial models, are youth, which means they already have, and even business plans, they already have a whole system figured out. Then now, how can they be able to combine all this information, the tech savviness, the literacy they have in terms of financials, the literacy in terms of looking for investors, then how can they combine that with technical knowledge? And I think this is what is now missing majorly. I don't think they have enough technical knowledge because, number one, the government kind of slowed down on the extension services. So then can we be able now to get all these things combined? Can you be able to get to bring forward technology and innovation, talk about mechanization? Can you be able to get investors, both private and public capital, to be able to provide blended financing to these young people? When I'm talking about blended finance, I'm talking about grants, for early startups. I'm talking about for seed capital. I'm talking about concessional loans for growth stage enterprises. I'm talking about equity, for the more established enterprises. So can you also be able to bring the investors through investor coalitions into this same place? Then can you also be able to give them technical knowledge through capacity building programs on best agricultural practices? If all these are combined, especially with the current economic crisis, then I think the youth are going to get into this. And it's very simple for the youth. They are looking for something that is going to engage them in a fun way. So I think the fun will come through the technical, the innovations. But they're also looking for something that is profitable. So then can we be able to make sure that they are able to do agriculture in a profitable way? As a youth, if I'm able to make money and be able to, use my mind, in terms of innovations, then I think the youth are going to get into this and they're going to thrive into it. And I have seen a couple of, examples, they're not many, but they're there, of people who came from their professions into agriculture and they ended up not going back to their professions because then they were able to hack that divide between the couple of things that I mentioned. And once they work for them, then it becomes a good mind for them. Thank you. And back to you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. Tobias, I've just seen your message that we are perhaps delaying you because your understanding was that this was a 1 hour session. Do you have last minute thoughts before we allow you to go to your next meeting?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Daktari. I think the conversation we are having is very crucial in terms of supporting Agriculture 4.0, and the linkage between agriculture and manufacturing is also very crucial. We need to continue this conversation and see how we can scale production, particularly at the farm level, and also provide linkage between the farmers and the industries. And the task I am challenging all participants here is, how do we work together, particularly to provide guarantee of offtake from farmers? As industries, we are ready to work with agriculture-related institutions and those that are promoting agriculture in this country and also in the continent. Let's just see how we come together and scale production and make agriculture something that is admirable, particularly by the youth. Thank you, Dr. Ari.
Yeah, thank you. Before you go, we will organize a follow-up meeting of the panelists here.
Yes.
Can come, since all of you in Nairobi, you can come over to our offices at the GTC and have lunch as we discuss some of the issues and follow up actions, because the 1 hour, 1 hour to 15 minutes not enough to capture all the issues that we are raising here. As Regenesis, we are a South African institution that's now established in Kenya. We are just submitting our application to the Commissioner of University Education to be registered as a university, and one big part of that university will be agricultural technology. Looking at all the aspects of economics, technology, financing, to be able to attract more people into agriculture, and also to train people on modern methods of farming. So I'll let you go. We'll continue for another 12 minutes or so, but now you can leave, and we'll see you when we organize a meeting here at Regenesis.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Fabian, over to you. Are there any other issues that we should try to address? Fabian?
Yes, thank you so much, our esteemed speakers. Thank you so much, Doc. I see Olusola's hand up. Perhaps we'll go with Olusola first, and then I'll read some questions that are on the chat. Thank you. Olusola, over to you.
No, thank you very much, Fabian and Dr. Patrick. I also just want to introduce this whole concept of food systems, which is something we are currently actively promoting within the continent. Some of the participants have highlighted the fact that, and we've spoken about it also on this call, the perception of agriculture or farming within the continent is still this old idea of, very tiresome and a lot of drudgery. But we are shifting to thinking more about food systems in which we're thinking across the whole value chain. So there is the on-farm bit of agricultural production, but there is the whole value chain, the agri-processing, the value addition, the post-harvest handling, and even beyond that, we are thinking way through other aspects like logistics. How does the food get to the table of the final consumer? We've spoken a bit about exports today. So we need to think much more broadly about agriculture and how or where exactly young people can come in. Because in the long run, the way I think of agriculture, we don't necessarily need to get 70% of our young population into farms. In fact, the advanced technologies or the advanced countries, over time, they begin to reduce their farming population and more people go into service delivery. So what does service delivery look like to us? What does value addition look like to us? Still thinking within that whole food system. What does logistics look like? What does computing look like? How do we make things easier and get more productive? So that expansion of the way we look at agriculture and the way we think about it, and then how that goes back to policy formulation, to our education system, to how students are being trained or guided, to the curriculum design, a whole systemic change that will help us to transform the landscape in Africa. And technology definitely has a very, very vital role to play in all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olusola. I believe that was a good response to Richard Richard Oladipo's question on the chat, which you have been able to address. There is a question from anonymous attendee. How I wish that we could know your name. The question goes, talking of manufacturing, do you think the environment is favorable to young people to venture in terms of laws, taxes, regulations, tariffs, etc., especially in the agri-space? This would have been a perfect question for Tobias, but he's since left. Perhaps I'll throw this to Victor.
Thank you so much. And answering this question is a bit hard, especially from a policy perspective, because I think number one, what's working for us is that there's a huge forward shift in terms of policy focus on youth and agro-processing. I mean, when you look at even major programs, from most of these organizations, they're always stressing on, the youth and women. So I think that focus is there. I also know the Kenya government, through the agro-industrialization, especially the Big Four agenda on agro-processing, I know it's a high priority area for them. So I think that could be an opportunity. I know there are also a lot of targeted programs. The government has tried, but I also know from the private sector, there are a lot of government programs that are trying to help the youth. In terms of markets, I think things are, things such as the AFCFTA have been able to, or we are hoping they are going to open ways to newer markets. So these are areas that the youth could potentially venture into. And also through the East African, the ESC and the free trade, but also even growth of agritech again. And then I think this is one major point is that, just leveraging on technology, then I think agtech is a big also opportunity. And what are the challenges that I could say of? Of course, there is taxes. This is a problem not only in the manufacturing sector, but in almost all the sectors. So taxes and levies are still very hefty in this country. In terms of financing, access to affordable financing, of course, financing is also difficult because of the land tenure, collateral, and the other things that I had mentioned prior. And also infrastructure also doesn't favor us. So I think over and above is it's a balance. There are good things, yes, but there are also things that are a bit difficult. But again, what I can be able to answer or say to this person is that do not fear venturing into this thing, because most of these things are largely a problem of business, not even the youth specifically, but business. So what then you're supposed to do is, it's like a clarion call for us to be able to make sure that policies that the government are coming up with are favoring the youth. So then the youth are able then to be able to find incentives to be able now to get into agriculture, because I feel it's also unfair for me as a youth who's just starting off, and for somebody else who has been there and who has grown their business being put on the same pedestal. So if you're able to incentivize me as a youth to be able to come and be able to do the work as the person is doing, then I think that is the major thing. But I think over and above, don't give up. Yeah, continue looking for opportunities, and hoping that our government is going to push on their agenda on processing, but also give us nice policies and incentives for us to be able to get into the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for such a comprehensive response to the question. Doc, I'll hand this over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fabian, and thank you everybody for your very active engagement. Just to conclude, I just want to highlight that a few issues have come up that are quite critical. Collaboration. How do we collaborate whereby government, farmers, investors, academic institutions, we work together to transform, to lead this the digital transformation in the agricultural sector? How do we make it interesting? How do we, as institutions of higher learning, invest in human capital, ensuring that the young people are involved and engaged? How do you ensure that we educate the young people through various approaches that we have, like, for example, mentoring young people in high schools regarding agriculture that actually can make more money in agriculture than in medicine. I have 3 of my friends who went to the UK, my classmates, and they were doctors there for 20 years. And they came back, and one is farming in Siaya, one is farming in Tanariva, another one is farming in Nyeri, and they're making more money than they were making in the UK. And they're saying there that the taxman was taking 40% of their money, and now they're able to have more savings. And just amazing how that, how they're not looking back, they're saying that had they known, that's what they would have started, because their families also had the combination of modern methods of farming and land. They're able to make a lot of money. The other issue is upskilling of farmers, and Olusola raised this issue, and also Victor raised this issue. How do we upskill our farmers, our agricultural professionals, to integrate training to be able to lead and participate in this transformation? I gave examples in the health sector where basically we are facing challenges. In the financial sector, they are facing challenges in upscaling the skills and having the right people, digital agricultural scientists, for example, that are able to do this. We as a university, we are flexible, and being a private university, this conversation, Fabian and I and others, we were actually preparing the curriculum for the framework for the curriculum that we used for training in agriculture. And this has been a very good conversation. Some of you that have been presenting, we'll ask you to join us as part-time faculty to share some of these thoughts in our classes as we go forward. I think that for our country and for our continent, our competitive edge lies in the talent that we have in our young people. And if you don't engage young people into agriculture, which is the most profitable sector, the most highly sought after and demand, as we see the population grow, we'll be missing on something very big. So our task is how to ensure that we do that. And how do we add value to what we do to ensure that the value addition is central and critical to our growth, and to also ensure that our farmers are economically secure. It's not just the food security, but they're also economically secure. And how do we get rid of middlemen and women? Lastly, just to thank our panelists, and just to once again say that we are planning a session that here at our offices to have a more robust conversation when we have more time, and also follow up on some of the issues that have been raised here to see how we can support this sector as an academic institution, but at the same time working with you as experts in this field based on the various issues, the many issues that you've raised. I like what Tobias said, that this is a gold mine that we are not even mining. You know, it's very, where I come from, in Migori County and in Homa Bay County, they're discovering a lot of gold. But people didn't even know that there was gold there. People just were working there, not making a lot of money in farming. And now they're discovering that there's a lot of gold. There's another gold here, which is farming. And this is a gold that we don't know about and requires education and awareness. That there's a gold mine that can absorb a lot of people, can create a lot of jobs, and can make people wealthy. And we need your help to be able to achieve that objective. Let me also thank our participants who have spent 1.5 hours with us to engage and to raise issues and also to listen. Please feel free to get in touch with us at Regenesis. You can find us online. You can reach us through various means, and we can continue having these conversations. Or if you're a young person, you can also take many digital courses that we have, that emerging courses like data science, AI, project management, web security, and many others. that can actually empower you to participate in this sector, but in other sectors as well. Or if you like, we are also providing opportunities to train people the German language to be able to work in Germany as part of the Kenya government, German government program that is scheduled to, the target is to employ 250,000 Kenyans in Germany. So we do a lot of things as an institution. Please go to our website and learn as much as you can. Otherwise, I would like to say thank you, everybody, and see you again during our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.